Buenos días. Ecuador es un país generoso y de brazos abiertos. El nuestro es un gobierno respetuoso de los principios del derecho internacional, entre ellos la institución del asilo. El concederlo o retirarlo es facultad soberana del Estado ecuatoriano. Hoy anuncio que la conducta irrespetuosa y agresiva del señor Julian Assange, las declaraciones descorteses y amenazantes de su organización aliada en contra del Ecuador y sobre todo la transgresión de los convenios internacionales han llevado la situación a un punto en que el asilo del señor Assange es insostenible e inviable. Ecuador, soberanamente, da por finalizado el asilo diplomático otorgado al señor Assange en el año 2012.
Hello everyone, welcome to NeoUnrealist. That was the scene outside of Ecuador's embassy to the United Kingdom in London today. Wikileaks founder Julian Assange, after spending nearly 7 years inside that building, I mean, wow. He sought refuge here, back in 2012, I think, right? So after, almost 7 years, the guy, he never left that little place. The Ecuadorian government, they finally revoked Assange's asylum and invited the UK police to go in there and arrest him on their premises. The president of Ecuador, you saw there, Lenin Moreno, who names their kid Lenin? Lenin Moreno, he said his decision to end Assange's asylum was triggered by repeated violations of international conventions and daily life protocols. It appears that Assange, they're saying, was not the ideal house guest. Now, you remember that old saying about house guests, that they're like fish. After 3 days in your house, they begin to stink. Well, Assange was there 7 years ago, so if they had a problem with him violating daily life protocols, you'd think they'd have kicked him out long ago then. I mean, let's face it, he's a prickly fellow. But anyway, Assange, he was holed up with the Ecuadorians. I like him for 7 years, and he appears, they're saying he broke their security cameras. He took over 3 different rooms in the embassy. He put lock codes on them that only he had. And so they're accusing him of illegally accessing, Ecuadorian security files in the embassy. Well, in any event, look, the whole reason he went in there to begin with, if from remembering back, was that he was trying to seek refuge from some accusations of sex crimes in Sweden. Now, over the years, that case seems to have faded away. I think Sweden dropped the case because obviously they couldn't reach him in Ecuador. They say they're still interested in pursuing that, but really what's going on, what Assange, I think, was really fearing was extradition to the United States. Now, the Obama administration, it looks like they wanted to indict him, and he always maintained that, and it appears to be true, because all doubt of that was removed in 2018 when it was revealed that Assange had already been indicted secretly by the Department of Justice in the United States. Now, we now know that as of today, those charges were about collaborating way back in 2010 with the American leaker, now going by the name of Chelsea Manning, in the hacking of thousands of classified government documents related to the Iraq War. But, Democrats have long hoped that the recently ended former special counsel Robert Mueller's, his unsuccessful investigation into whether or not the Russian government colluded with anyone in the United States to influence the 2016 presidential election, that would yield some kind of working relationship with the Trump campaign and Wikileaks. But, that clearly wasn't the case when Mueller, declined to indict Trump gadfly Roger Stone for such activities. That was the working theory that, Roger Stone was the nexus between Trump and Wikileaks. But, they alleged that Wikileaks acquired the hacked DNC emails that they were publishing during the run-up to the 2016 election, that they got it from Russia. But, Julian Assange and Wikileaks, on his behalf, have consistently denied that their source for the DNC leaks was Russia. So here's the thing about Julian Assange, which, in some cases is ironic in me making this video. I don't even really like this guy. I wasn't a fan of this guy leaking classified government documents more than 10 years ago, mostly having to do, like I said, back with the situation in Iraq. But even then, I don't think I ever thought that the United States government would pursue indictments against him for what he was doing, for this simple reason. I mean, I guess I felt this is going back over a decade about Assange. What's the difference between WikiLeaks and, say, the Washington Post or the New York Times? Journalists publish stolen documents and classified material all the time. I mean, that's really the basis of reporting on Washington. If you're a reporter in Washington, that's more or less what you're doing. Especially if you cover any beat having to do with the military or national security or intelligence. How is Julian Assange chargeable for hacking? In this case, he's being charged. I guess these are thin charges. In this case, he's being charged with helping Chelsea Manning commit the crimes that Manning was put away for. The government made its case against Manning, and he went to jail, which that makes sense to me. Look, he was in the military at the time. He'd taken an oath. He's an American citizen. He knew the rules. He broke them. Fine. Whether you like what he leaked or not, I have no problem with that. Julian Assange, he passed him his materials, and Assange published them just like any other journalist would. If Chelsea Manning had approached the New York Times or the Washington Post, are they saying they wouldn't have published or used any of the documents? They certainly had no problem using them. After Assange published them, they wrote the stories about the stuff that Assange was publishing. How is that any different than, this is the classic example. How is that any different than the iconic Pentagon Papers case? When former U.S. military analyst for the Rand Corporation, Daniel Ellsberg, he gave the New York Times and the Washington Post, the aforementioned Pentagon Papers, which were a classified internal report on U.S. political and military involvement in Vietnam from 1945 to 1967. The papers, if you have ever read them, they clearly show that the administration of Democrat President Lyndon Johnson, who was the president at the time, in the last period that the report covered, it showed that Lyndon Johnson was lying to the public in Congress about U.S. involvement in Vietnam. The classified documents showed that the U.S. was secretly bombing Cambodia and Laos, among other things, and that the real purposes of the war were other than what they were saying. So Ellsberg, he was the leaker. He was the military contractor that was initially charged with conspiracy, espionage, and theft of government property. You could argue they could have made that case against him because, he was the guy that was charged with keeping those secrets. But those charges had to be dismissed when the Watergate prosecutors found Nixon's White House had ordered the infamous White House plumbers to make an illegal effort to discredit Ellsberg. So that case got dropped on a technicality. Had that not been the case, Ellsberg could have been convicted and gone to prison. But what was important on the Pentagon Papers case, the most important thing, was that in 1971, in the case New York Times v. United States, the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that the government could not stop publication of the classified documents. They couldn't go after the journalists. Justice Black said, only a free and unrestrained press can effectively expose deception in government, and paramount among the responsibilities of a free press is the duty to prevent any part of the government from deceiving the people and sending them off to distant lands to die of foreign fevers and foreign shot and shell. Now, more or less the bottom line was that since 1971 and the Pentagon Papers case, it's been the bedrock assumption in the United States that legally the federal government has an extremely high bar to meet to stop the publication of classified material. It literally has to be a national security, life and death situation for the government to get prior restraint on publishing material like that. So it looks like they're trying to get Assange. They're trying to make him, charge him as a spy, that he's get him on a hacking charge by saying his encouragement of Chelsea Manning to break passwords or giving assistance on learning how to do that, break passwords on classified documents, that is colluding with Manning and his crimes. That makes him complicit. Now, that seems a big stretch because it's routine for journalists to encourage their sources to give them more material. Hey, get me more. That's the process of journalism, to get information out of people. Now, under this paradigm, I mean, think about it. If the government of China or Iran doesn't like me putting some document they'd rather not have public on my YouTube channel, can they have me extradited if I travel to a third country like the UK or some country that they have an extradition agreement with on that basis? Will U.S. journalists don't think do they not see the danger in this? Won't they object? I mean, because if the U.S. Department of Justice is able to indict a non-American, I mean, Julian Assange isn't an American citizen. Has he ever been to the U.S.? Maybe once or twice. I don't know. If they can indict Assange with hacking because he taught Manning how to hack or encouraged him to get classified documents, one has to wonder, to even do this kind of prosecution. Chelsea Manning himself, now that I think about it, he'd have to have rolled over on Julian Assange. How would they even know that this happened or how it was done? Did Assange get any break? I mean, did Manning get any breaks in return for rolling over on Assange? And, I ask this because someone would have to testify in court to prosecute Assange for this, and the only witness, would or could have been Manning. Here's a tweet from Chelsea Manning saying that he was released from administrative segregation, ADSEG. Translation for you non-inmates, he got let out of the hole. And that was on April 4th. And then, a couple hours later on same day, April 4th, WikiLeaks is tweeting that a high-level source told them Ecuador was going to expel Assange within hours to days using a violation of a made-up protocol as a pretext. And lo and behold, exactly 7 days later, on the 11th, Ecuador expels Assange from the embassy, citing his violation of their protocol. I'm not saying that that's proof that Manning turned rat, but it sure has that aroma, I think, no? So, this is where I'm sitting on this. I don't like Julian Assange. I think Assange is bad for the United States, even. I think he really doesn't like the United States. I don't think Assange should be prosecuted by the United States, though not on this bullcrap, because this has a larger meaning if this is left, if they let this stand. They're coming after independent and dissident voices. If they can do this to Julian Assange, what would stop them from doing it to any journalist? Hell, some shit little YouTube channel like this one. They have a million ways to go after you. Demonetization, going after your Patreon, getting you banned off social media. Hello, Alex Jones and InfoWars, anybody? You get your bank to drop your personal bank account like they did with Laura Loomer. I guess Assange was impervious to all that kind of stuff. I think he's independently wealthy. He has the resources and the allies to outlast that sort of stuff. So eventually, they had to resort to the full power of the state to take his freedom. Like the UK's been doing to Tommy Robinson. I don't like what's going on. Not at all. And it seems like what they're trying to do is what they're doing is not even hiding it anymore. President Trump, he better look into this because it looks like the deep state is moving to make sure that all the people that they think contributed to him getting elected in 2016, all the people online, that countered on the internet, all the garbage that the mainstream media was blasting out on the airwaves and in newspapers, it looks like they're trying to make sure that all those uncontrolled outlets get squelched. Alex Jones and InfoWars, Julian Assange, you may or may not like them, but they're just the tip of the iceberg. Look what the European Union's doing with that Rule 13 garbage, where, more or less, the internet is over in Europe once that thing kicks in. China has their social credit system, and you got Google, Facebook, Twitter, and all their allies and cohorts in Silicon Valley. They've more or less laid the foundation for a de facto social credit system here in the U.S. So, the internet as we know it, it's being fenced in. That's all for this NeoUnrealist. Like the video, comment, subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell to keep up with the new content. Now, if you want to go above and beyond that and toss your hard-earned euros, your dollars, your shekels at the channel, you can follow the links below to Patreon. If you're one of the diehards still on there, PayPal is a more direct route if that's your preference. Or you can go follow the link to Subscribestar, which is where a lot of the Patreon refugees landed after that whole mess happened. Now, BitChute viewers, you obviously got the option of using the green tip /pledge button underneath the player. And thanks for watching.